Hey, how's it going everyone, and welcome to Classic Refinishers. My name is Brennan. I am your kitchen cabinet and furniture refinishing expert, and today we are going to go over how to refinish your kitchen cabinet doors. This is going to be a step-by-step process on how to strip, sand, stain, and respray your cabinet doors with your everyday products that you'll be able to get at Home Depot. Now before we start, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date with all our kitchen cabinet and furniture refinishing projects. So here in our professional workshop, we usually use a flow-over system to strip our cabinet doors and furniture. That chemical cannot be purchased by anybody. You have to be a professional workshop in order to use this chemical. But what we're going to do is we're going to show you step by step your everyday products you'll be able to get from Home Depot, Lowe's, or your local hardware store, and you'll be able to tackle this project right at home. So here is the cabinet door that we're going to be refinishing today. It is a solid cherry. Now you will find this in your late 80s, early 90s, and even into the early 2000s. Very common in a lot of households today. Now cherry wood is expensive. It is a quality wood compared to a lot of the kitchens, the way they are made today. And the products that we're going to be using here is your local stripper. And again, you're going to be able to find this at any Home Depot or Lowe's. You guys are going to need some Scotch-Brite. You are going to need some scrapers, a throwaway brush, rags, some lacquer thinner, and in this case we're going to stain this with some espresso stain. You will need some stain, and then we will get into the lacquered finishing process. Alright guys, so the first thing that you're going to want to do here, make sure you have some cardboard, or you put it in an area that you know that when the stripper does ooze off over on the edges, it's not going to ruin anything. Now you are going to want to make sure that you shake up your stripper chemical here. What we're going to do is we're going to pour a little bit on here. Going to take your brush and you're just gently going to brush it into all the areas. Now you want to make sure that you cover this area really good. What we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit more on here. I'm going to cover the area, come right back. Alright, now that this door is completely covered in stripper, we need to let it sit for about 10-15 minutes. Let that stripper activate to start taking that clear coat off. You want to make sure that you use that brush and brush it into all the corners. Move that stripper around. You want to make sure you cover every little aspect of this door. Now we may need to strip it a second time. We're going to find out once we get into the cleaning stage. The ultimate goal here is to eliminate the amount of sanding that we're going to have to do. So we want to do a good job stripping this down. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes here now, and as you can see, that clear coat started to bubble up. This is exactly what we are looking for, guys. The clear coat is literally lifting itself off of the wood. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to take our scraper that we have, and we're actually going to scrape the finish off little by little, section by section. And as you can see there, we are right down the bare wood. The more stripper that you put on and the longer you let it wait, again, is going to make sure that that sanding process coming up next is going to make your life easy. Alright guys, now that I scraped off as much as I can with my putty knife, obviously depending on the door, there's going to be certain areas where your putty knife is not going to fit, and this is where the very fun part comes. Now you are going to need a pair of gloves, and what we're going to do from here is we're going to get this Scotch-Brite, and we're going to get our lacquer thinner here, and we're going to put some lacquer thinner on here, and we are going to scrub this bad boy down and clean it up with some Scotch-Brite. Alright, now that we have some lacquer thinner on here, as you can see, look at that. Scotch-Brite with some thinner. It's pushing all the old finish off. And we're going to do this throughout the whole door. Now, it is going to take some time. Take your time. It's a little bit messy. It is going to start drying the door up, so you want to move a little fast. But the end result and how you do it is going to determine if we are going to strip this door down again. Oh boy, guys, lots of elbow grease on this one, I know. Your end result, after cleaning it off with the lacquer thinner, should really look something like this. Now my door is still drying, and you may want to get into certain areas with these nice little picks to help get the finish out, which would be great. Also, some of these steel brushes to get in here, really start working the finish up, especially here with these rope finish that we have on here. You know, it's a nice look for the door, but man, is it a pain in the butt to get the finish out of there. Now, you do want to hit this a few times with some lacquer thinner just to clean it as best as you can, and then from here, we're going to get into the sanding process. Well, now that our door has dried, it should look something like this. Now, as you can see here, we have a little bit of finish left here and there. That's absolutely okay. We just want to make sure that 95% of this door, if not more, is completely stripped. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is break off some Scotch-Brite here, and we're going to Scotch-Brite this entire door down before we get into our sanding process of a 150, 220. Now, you could start at a 120 or an 80 grit. It all depends on the finish you're trying to achieve. Now, obviously, if you go with an 80 grit, you're going to have more swirls in here from your orbital sander or your square sander. Or if you're going to do it by hand, you're going to have more scratches in the wood. We want to eliminate the scratches, and we want a superior finish that looks brand new. So we're going to start with a 150, end with the 220, and get right into staining. All right, now that we have our panel done, now this has been 150, 220, same thing with the back, same thing with the sides here. And what we're starting to do is we're starting to sand these rails here. Now, this does have a lip on here. This is just this particular door. Obviously, everybody has a different door, raised panel, shaker door, whatever it may be. What I like to do is, rip the sandpaper in half. Now, again, this is a 150 right here. I like to come up around the edge here. Again, you want to take your time, go nice and slow. We want some clean, sharp lines. We don't want to ruin anything. We don't want it to dip inside. The other thing that's really important and a lot of people don't realize is sanding with the grain. Okay, we don't want to cross grain when we're sanding. We want to go with it, and that eliminates the scratches. And again, that is going to, tell us how the finish is going to look in the end when we actually put the stain on. And what a cross grain sanding is exactly right here. Now, this mark right here is from our Scotch-Brite when we stripped everything down. Now, we are going to have to sand that down in a format like this in order to eliminate those scratches. It is going to take time. Again, we're staining this door. We want it to be beautiful. We want it to look brand new. This is not a quick process by any means, so you definitely want to take your time on here. The next step that I'm going to do after I 150 everything, I'm going to 220 it, so that way we eliminate more of those scratches before we apply the stain. I love these things. These are sanding sponges. I have them 150, 180, 220, all the way up to 1,000 grit. These are great for getting in here for the decorative trim, especially these routed edges that are on here as well too with these bevel edges. You really, these things are awesome. It comes in here, it cleans it up perfectly. It contours to the exact rope. We're not flattening down the rope with the sandpaper. This thing is awesome. You guys could find this, again, local Home Depot, Lowe's. You get them really cheap online. I highly suggest it. It's a little trick in the finish world. We love these things, especially in between coats. We use this instead of using sandpaper. Again, it's all about the finished product, eliminating scratches. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to finish up this door here, show you exactly what it's going to look like, all done, sanded, 220, and then we're going to get into the staining process, and I'm going to show you guys how to apply a stain, and then eventually we're going to get into the finish work. All right, now that we have our door nicely sanded, ready to go for stain, what I did is I put it up on our little prop here, our door. This is what we use when we stain and we spray. That way it's elevated off of a platform there. Now, this is our stain here, guys. This is an oil-based. I do not use water-based here at the shop. It's all oil-based, lacquered-based. This is just something I picked up at Home Depot again. What we use here at our professional shop, it's called ML Campbell. Great product. The only problem is it's really meant for professionals. This is a do-it-yourself, so you guys can do this at home and get the products that you need at your local hardware store. So what we want to do is we want to shake this up really good. We want to get all of the sediments, everything at the bottom, we want them at the top. Shook it up really well. From there, what I like to do is just a regular brush, dunk it, and what we want to do here is apply it. Now, again, we're gonna get messy. It's okay. We want it to get messy. We're gonna clean it up later anyways. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this all around, spread it. We're gonna let it sit for a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rag and we're gonna clean this up. So again, don't be afraid to apply the stain. We want it to soak. We want the wood to absorb it. Let it sit for a few minutes and then you're gonna clean it off with a nice rag. All right, guys, here is our first coat of stain drying. Now it does look like I am gonna put one more coat of stain on here just so we could get a little bit more characteristics and depth in the wood grain from the stain. I wish the camera was picking up the beauty of this door because I mean, wow, look at that. Now, a lot of you there might be wondering, what the heck am I doing putting espresso on a cherry door? Well, we are a professional refinishing shop and our client is looking to have their kitchen island refinished, and this is one of many doors that we are refinishing for a sample for them. So they wanted to see what it would look like when an espresso finish on here. Honestly, I think this looks great. We're gonna put another coat on here just to give it a nice covering. Now, we might see some blotchiness. Now, that's normal. It's the characteristics of refinishing and just wood in general. We're gonna have dark spots, light spots. It's the beauty of wood and the different species of wood as well too, whether you have oak or maple or walnut. And in this case, cherry. And if you want to take it a step further and you have some great professional skills with finishing, from here, once we get some clear coat on here, we might do a little bit of toning and some blending as well and make this door a one-of-a-kind finished door. So what I'm gonna do here, one more coat of stain, and then we're gonna let it dry for at least a half hour. You know, our normal rule of thumb here at the workshop, especially when you're doing 60 or more doors at a time, is we like to let them dry overnight and then come in the next day, go in the spray booth and spray them all. But we're gonna let this dry for about a half hour or so. And from there, I'm gonna show you guys different techniques of actually putting on the clear coat or polyurethane that you may wanna use. Again, these are gonna be Home Depot products. I'm also gonna show you guys what we would do here at the workshop and the product that we would spray and show you the final result as well of a sprayed product versus a brushed on one, because obviously a brushed on product is not going to look as nice as a sprayed on one. And we want this door to look as professional as possible. So let's get one more coat on here and we'll be right back. We're here in the spray booth right now and our stain is fully dry. We did go ahead and we put 2 coats on here and we are about to put some clear coat on here. Now, a lot of you out there will not have access to a spray gun and that's okay. Depending on, again, the style of your door, it's all going to be different. I like lacquer. I don't spray polyurethane very much. We will be spraying this door to give it a professional finish. Now you can go out and buy guns at a Harbor Freight, Home Depot. I think Sherwin-Williams actually rents out guns, at least in our area they do. Again, it's gonna be a lacquer that we spray on here. You definitely wanna thin it down. And if you are gonna brush it on or you're gonna roll it on, you can absolutely roll it and brush it and get into all these grooves here as well too. You wanna make sure you thin it down. You wanna thin it down, very, very light coats. Now, whether you're spraying, whether you're rolling or brushing, you wanna do at least 2 to 3 nice heavy coats. You're going to wanna let it sit and dry for at least a half hour to an hour. Lacquer dries very fast. And then we're gonna sand it down. And you wanna sand very good in between those 2 to 3 coats that you're gonna lay down. Those are gonna be your bases. After you put those coats down and you sand it, you're gonna do another coat or 2 more coats to give it a final sealant on here. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And I'm gonna show you guys. We're gonna spray really quick. Now, what I like to use for our clear coat, I use a company called ML Campbell. Great professional product. We use our Kremlin systems here. This is probably one of the best spray guns on the market. We'll do a video on that gun later on down the road. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna spray my first coat on here, show you guys what it looks like, and I'll be right back. First coat done, and wow. Now we are using a semi-gloss on this door. We're looking for a nice modern sheen and look to the cabinetry. Now, you are gonna get some little specks, some dust. It happens, whether you're spraying, whether you're brushing or rolling, it's the first coat of lacquer, guys. You know, don't worry too much about it. Once it dries, if you want to go ahead and sand it before you give it another coat, that's fine. What I like to do is I actually let it dry and I give it another coat, and then I'll sand before the third one, just so that way we don't break through the clear coat and break through and touch wood again and lose some of the stain. We definitely don't want to do it. It happens all the time, especially when people don't do this on an everyday basis. So I highly recommend definitely 2 coats before you sand, going into your third coat. If you want to make the third coat your final one, that would be a great process. You definitely don't want to break through this. Definitely don't want to lose any of the stain that you put down on here. Now, usually we do a sandable sealer and then we go into clear coats, and I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. This again is just a sample, just to give you guys a quick base on how this is done the proper way. And as videos in the future that we do, we're going to show you how we use a stripping bed or industrial sanding machine, how we spray 60, 70, 80 plus doors here at our workshop. But this is just a great start. And we're going to let this dry here, give it another coat, sand it down. I'm going to show you how we sand it with our sanding pads. Love those sanding pads. I showed you guys that earlier in the video. Definitely going to use that again, but we're going to use a 220, maybe even get up into a 320 before we put the final coats on here, and then we're going to have a beautiful end result. Okay, now that our door is 100% dry, now it's not just dry to the touch, we want it to be cured and dried underneath because we're going to be sanding this. So, you definitely want to make sure that you guys take your time and letting it dry. Again, you don't want to rush. This is something you want to come out absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. And what we're going to do now is once you get to this stage where you only need to put one more coat on, you can do a few options. So what we like to do here at our company, again, going back to these sanding sponges, this is a 220. It is a very low grit for a sanding sponge, and that's going to help us get inside all these grooves here. And it's going to take care of buffing it all down, getting rid of all these little, I call them woogies. Everybody calls them something different in the wood business, but these are just particles and from the grain raising from getting wet. If you guys are going to use sandpaper, you are going to use a 220. You could even use a 320. If I was going to use sandpaper as a professional, I would probably go into a 320. Again, just to make sure we're not eating through this clear coat. We don't want to get down to that stain. It's a very common thing. It happens, especially for people that do not do this on an everyday basis. So if this was my project, I've never done it before, I would do 320. After you're done 320ing the door, taking your time, from there, you guys are going to either blow it off, tack cloth it off, make sure that we get all these little debris out because it is going to leave a dust film from sanding it down. So you want to clean it off really good before you apply your last coat. Now, something that it's going to look like is like this. Okay? It's going to leave some fine grain dust on there. And again, very lightly, you don't want to go and break through. All we're doing is smoothing out the finish here. So that way our final coat just is nice and smooth and it adheres properly. And again, all this little dust, the fine debris from the lacquer being sanded, you want to clean it off. You want tack cloth, blow it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a quick sanding really quick, show you guys exactly what it's going to look like right before it goes in to get its final coat of spray, or in your case, another coat of rolling or brushing if you guys don't have a spray gun. I'm going to show you what it looks like. We'll go from there. Back here in the spray booth, and we just blew off the door, and this is exactly what your door should look like. It should look like you dulled the finish, okay? all the way around. You want to make sure you get all those specks out of here. Make sure you tack cloth. Make sure you wipe everything down very good. Now the door is going to look extremely dull. Big difference from when we first had it before we did this buff sanding. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on that spray booth. We're going to give it a spray really quick. This is another reason why you guys want to have a spray gun. Obviously, again, professional workshop here, but you know, you're able to give it just a beautiful coat of finish. You're spraying it on. It's a factory finish, if not better than coming right from the factory, because we get to determine how much is too much. Now, man, was that a little bit more difficult than what I thought, holding it, spraying it at the same time. Unfortunately, all the guys are out of the shop because it is the holiday. But man, it looks gorgeous. As long as you take your time, I mean, you could achieve a very close finish just by brushing and rolling. Again, hopefully you guys thin down the lacquer really good. Obviously, I'm sure you guys realize by now, it does smell. This is something you guys are going to want to probably do in your garage. Just between the stripper and the lacquer thinner and the lacquer itself, you know, it does have an odor to it, and each one is very distinct from the next. But again, you guys can rent spray guns. You guys could go out and buy your own spray guns fairly cheap. You know, you're just gonna thin it down. That's really what it comes down to, you know, and take your time overlapping, and you're gonna get a beautiful finish just like this. All right, now that our final coat of lacquer is dry, we will be able to actually use these doors, mount them back up in the kitchen. And I mean, wow guys, this door came out absolutely gorgeous. Look at that attention to detail. Look at the rope, look at the wood grain. All that hard work pays off. This is exactly why you guys want to take your time. Do not rush. Everybody is anxious for everything to dry fast and cure fast and sand fast. When you take your time, you will get a flawless product just as you see here. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe. Stay up to date with all of our furniture and kitchen cabinet refinishing projects that we have going on this year. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible. Until then, guys, see you at the next one.